I am here today with author Claude Phipps. He is the author of the newly released book, When Scientists Were Gods. Thank you so much, Claude, for joining us today. And why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about your book?
Well, thank you, Allie. This thing, as a concept, it started back in 1958. I was a freshman or sophomore at MIT walking to the dining hall with a friend, and I looked up and the sky was ruby red from the equator clear to the poles, and it was not the fog in Boston Harbor, it was just red. So you could see stars through it. And so I wanted to know what was doing that for years. Finally, I found out that scientists had launched a rocket in the southern hemisphere up to 300 miles altitude. On the tip of it, an atomic bomb, and they set that off, and that's what started this thing I was seeing then. They wanted to see what bombs would do to radar and communication, because you're making this huge cloud of electrons, and that would might make communication impossible in war. But they didn't ask it, they didn't tell us, so that's why the original title was going to be Hubris. Just scientists do have that. I have worked at Livermore and Los Alamos labs for some time. I'm not anymore. I have my own business since 1995. I got out of there as fast as it made economic sense. But the thing is, I remember hearing physics discussions ended with instead of some kind of argument. People have tremendous egos. The closer they get to that kind of power, the more egotistic they get. Mm-hmm. So I decided, okay, look into it. What was the deal? Actually, the whole thing may have been Nicholas Christophilus' idea. At the time in any case, I had, in 1990, about 6 years ago, I had a 5-hour interview with Dr. Ray Kidder, who started the laser fusion program at Livermore and ran the mic shot with that huge 18 megaton yield back there in the 50s. That was all over Life magazine. And he, I love this guy. He hired me right out of graduate school, and yet he worked in that and he worked in this. And I'm trying to point out that scientists are humans. And even though they did pull the wool over our eyes saying, we know what we're doing, at the end of his life, Ray was very eager to make the world a safe place. He was one of the principal actors in non-nuclear, non-proliferation. And so was Nick Christophilus. We called him Nick the Greek. He was an elevator engineer in Athens when he wrote a whole theory about how you could confine a plasma and a new way to confine a plasma and get energy out of it in hydrogen fusion. And people in the science world said, oh, he can't know anything. He's just but he did. That's another story that I like a lot. And then the third chapter is entitled Sexy and Scary Stories at the Labs. I must admit, I didn't think they'd let me publish this, but I ran it through security at Los Alamos, and they said, we have no problem with it. Wow. So maybe there's some people that were excited about seeing some of those things in print.
Wow. And what was kind of the inspiration for you to really put pen to paper to get this book published?
Well, I guess it was that interview. I just decided I have to have Ray's words on tape, and then I can edit the hell out of it whenever I want. But just getting those words transcribed took me several weeks. A 5-hour interview, and edit it so that it's not repetitive and so forth. Then once I was into it, it's like, we got to get this done. It's just like any book. You put it off, and then you do it.
Wow. Well, you mentioned too that it did take you, a couple of years to get this fully written and published.
Yes, and I'm glad I did. I just sent a copy to his daughter in California, and she thanked me profusely. Um, she, well, for various reasons, felt that Ray Kidder's life hadn't been uh, done justice to in the print in the press. And I think he's a was a very interesting guy, and deserves any credit he can get.
Wow.
And like I said, he's one of the prime movers in nuclear non-proliferation in his later years. And also, his dream was realized when Livermore achieved ignition of laser fusion back there a couple of months ago. I think it was January. They actually got, it's the first time any man-made fusion program created more energy than went into it. So that's what ignition's all about. And he would have just loved to have lived that long. He died about a year before this happened. Oh. But that was his dream, you know. Wow. I mean, power for peace. There's, you know, what we used to say is there's enough energy, heavy hydrogen in the seawater to power the world for 3 billion years. If you could just do these reactors. I'm not saying it's easy. We're still a long way from that.
Wow. And is there anything else too that you want to mention to your audience about what they can see in these pages and read all about?
Oh, and so some of the characters are drawn fairly accurately. I have a friend in France who says, "This is excellent, you know, it's going to be exciting." You know, I sent him the script from it before it was published. And well, I'm interested in, have been interested in achieving fusion, however you do it, outside of the bomb. This has been shown to be the way with lasers. So then, well, there's 2 chapters. There's 3 chapters. The first one is about Ray Kidder. The second one is about this guy we called Nick the Greek, who the elevator engineer from Athens, who shook the whole world up with developing the alternating gradient field for synchrotrons and stuff like that. He died without having achieved his goal either, but he was trying to do good things for people in his last years. There's another story that's just rumors, and I don't want to talk about it, but concerning his death, where it was and how, and those who maybe worked out there will know what I mean, but I didn't want to put that in print.
I understand. Well, I'm so glad that you were able to get on this interview with us today, talk about your book a little bit more. I'm so excited for more people to get their hands on it. Thank you so much for thank you so much for joining us today. And once again, Claude's book is out now, When Scientists Were Gods. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple iTunes. You can find it in paperback and ebook versions as well. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you very much.